Hey, it's James here, and in this video, I want to show you the indicator that has correctly predicted the bottom of every single Bitcoin bear market in history. And the reason I want to do this video is because I have a theory about what's happening right now. But first, let me show you the history so you can see what I'm talking about. So going all the way back to 2014 and 2015, we can see that Gravitator put in a flashing buy in January of that year. And then the second buy label here in August ended up being a generational wealth opportunity. It was the bottom of this 2015 bear market. If we fast forward to 2018, we can see it put in a buy label in November of 2018. It put in its second buy during the COVID crash in 2020. Again, a generational wealth opportunity. If we fast forward to the 2022 bear market, it put in its first buy here. This was in May, and it put in its second buy here in October, just a few weeks before the bottom. Right around 18,000 bucks is where this fired at. So again, there's three bear markets in a row where the second buy pop was the actual bottom, or at least very, very close to the bottom of the bear market. And the reason they're doing this video is because right now we just got the second buy pop. First one came, had its dead cat bounce, and here's the second one. So if I'm going strictly by the algorithm itself, this should be the bottom of the bear market. Here's the irony. I don't think it is. I am still leaning to the bear side. I did close part of my short on this dump. I closed it around 64,000 if I recall correctly. And I'm still in part of the short from 97,000. So I did take some profits. But the more alarming thing is this has never failed. And so it's not a ton of data points, first of all, but it's never failed. So if it fails this time, which I tend to believe it's going to, that means that something has fundamentally shifted in the underlying market. Again, it hasn't failed yet. Maybe it doesn't fail. Maybe in hindsight, people will be like, dude, you should just listen to your own code. But I think it's going to fail. And if it fails, like I said, that's the sign that something bigger is going on. And I think it could be a sign that this is not a typical 4-year cycle type of thing, which, by the way, I've done videos about in the past. I already believe that. I definitely believe that something different is happening under the hood. And without going super deep, I personally believe that this was all one bull cycle that lined up with the bull market, one of the strongest bull markets in U.S. stock market history. I think they've both been in this long 17-year cycle. There's been books written about this, these 17-year cycles. And I think Bitcoin is about to experience its first ever true bear market. Now, if you go by the data, strictly speaking, a bear market is a 20% drawdown. So, we've had lots and lots of those in Bitcoin. But I mean an actual bear market where the sentiment completely dies, completely dries up, where people are like, Bitcoin was a scam, it was a Ponzi all along, all these types of things. And the irony is, if that happens, I think that is actually going to be where the opportunity lies at. Buying at 60,000, let's say it goes up to $1 million. Well, if we look at gold as an example, it took gold about 24 to 25 years to go from a roughly $1 trillion market cap to a $15 trillion market cap, a 15x. That's roughly what Bitcoin has to do. It actually needs almost 16x to get to $1 million per Bitcoin. So if it does it in the same time frame, which is possible, the average annual return is going to be about 12%, which is really not all that exciting because the average return of the stock market is 10%. And the stock market, historically speaking, is a much safer investment. So I think the real wealth could be made is if this is one 17-year cycle followed by a bear market that maybe lasts, 2 years instead of the normal 12 months. Maybe we get an additional 2 years of bear market. Maybe this thing actually bottoms at some point in mid 2028, maybe even under $10,000. And then perhaps it starts a new 17-year bull run. And maybe that's the bull run that actually does take Bitcoin to $1 million. And if you're buying at 10 grand, if it happens and it goes to $1 million, that is a 100x return. That, my friends, is life-changing. Even if you only put in like 5 grand, imagine you put in 5 grand in 2028 and it turns into $500,000. It's pretty amazing stuff. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on this. Again, this indicator is one I wrote several years ago. and it's been eerily accurate. So we'll see if maybe the indicator itself just suddenly falls apart, or if maybe something in the underlying market has fundamentally changed. I'm curious to find out. If you enjoyed data-driven content, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. As always, please remember I am some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. Nothing in this video is financial advice. You should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, Forex, or any other tradable asset. Thanks for watching. And as always, please remember to trade and invest safely.